All right, guys, how are we? Playoffs round one. 4 games in now, guys. We are 4 games in, and wow, has it been a playoff series across all of the series. I mean, even there's a few series that are 3-1 at the moment. They've still been incredibly tight, incredibly close. I've loved every single minute of it. And so we thought we might just take you through the road so far, the first 4 games of each series and where we sit. We made our predictions at the beginning of the first round. And yeah, we just want to take you through how all they're looking and how the series are going. Jaden, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I guess we can start off with the Avs Seattle game. This is the game that we said Seattle would at least take it to them, possibly even the upset, considering how their season combat was in regards to the standings. And look, Seattle's taking it to them. They're tied 2-2. It's been really great. Honestly, it's just that McKinnon factor. I think it was in the third game, um, or it was the last game that really got them the Avs the win. I think it was the third game,
Yeah,
and
third game.
yeah, no, it was just that's what I called. It was just going to be that McKinnon factor, but I knew Seattle had the team factor, and it's just playing like to a T like that, and that is a very thrilling series. I'd be very worried if I'm an Avs fan because Seattle are there to show up and play.
Oh, exactly. Like even today's game four, they outshot the Avs 43 to 22. And realistically, again, it was, you said game three was McKinnon just carrying on his back basically, and then you got Rantanen as well. He's done it again in this game four. They're down 2-0, they're getting outshot, probably outplayed for most of the game. And Rantanen just comes in that second period, goes bang bang in the space of 5 minutes, and it's 2-all. So yeah, I mean, we said it in the predictions thing. Avs 4-2, we both guessed. We suggested Seattle could be the big upset, but it came down to just the Avs talent, and ultimately I think that's still going to be what gets the Avs over the line. I think just their talent, their sheer talent. I think the Kraken, even though they've outplayed them in a few of the games. They've performed really, really well. Uh, I just don't think they've got the talent to go with the Avs overall. But yeah, it's one hell of a series so far. Every game seems to be tight. Like I think what you've had the one today was in OT. Game one was 3-1 to the Kraken. It was a relatively tight game. 3-2 in game two. I know it was 6-4, but Avs didn't really pull away. It was 3-all at one stage. So yeah, it's one hell of a series already. But I'm still pretty pretty solid on the 4-2 prediction we've got. I think the Avs will just be too skillful and get across the line, but Seattle still absolutely gallant in their first Stanley Cup appearance, a playoff appearance.
Yeah. The only thing to note, Makari is having a hearing for his interference against McCann during OT. But I doubt much comes of that in regards to missing game time or whatnot. Generally, it's normally fines at this point in the season, and we'll have to see what they do there. But yeah, that's the only other noteworthy thing that's happened so far in this series, and we're still waiting to see on the hearing on that. I guess we can move
Yeah.
on to the Stars one. Another series that is tied 2-all. The Dallas versus Minnesota. We have an amazing series here. I'd probably rank this up there with probably one of the best series so far, just because how it's played, how tight it is. It's very thrilling. We've obviously gone opposite. Stars 4-3 for me, Wild 4-3 for you. We think it's going to go all the way. So far, it looks like it is. And honestly, I feel like both teams have showed up. It's going to be heart wrenching to see one of these get knocked out because I don't feel like they deserve it. But I I don't even know what to say about these teams. They're just playing superb hockey overall. It's very fast, very physical, and I'm still sticking by my Stars for 4-3. I do think it will go to Game 7.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And the big reason why is like you look at that first game, double overtime. It was really sort of late into second OT when Hartman scored that overtime goal. But even the second game, Stars won at 7-3. They were they were 3-4-1 up, and then all of a sudden Wild made it 4-3 within, what was it? 11 seconds or something. They scored two goals in 11 seconds, made it
Mm,
4-3,
mm,
all over the Stars. They looked like they were back in the game, and then the Stars went bang, bang, and it was 6-3 within a matter of a minute with Dandanov and Rupe Hintz, and it was all of a sudden it was good, like it was game over. But the series has been like that. There's just been some really, really good defensive efforts. And then there's just been times where either team just explodes within a minute or two and scores a couple of amazing goals. Um, I know Minnesota won game 3 5-1, but I still didn't feel like the Stars were completely out of that. I felt like they were, one goal away from, maybe getting a sniff. So even in the blowout game, I think that series has still just been phenomenally tight. Um, it's and I think it'll continue for the rest of it. Yeah, I hope it goes to game seven, and I actually really hope that we see a couple more OTs because I think that first game when it went to second overtime, it was just watching that was one of the most stressful things. I'm not a Stars or a Wild fan, but my God, was that stressful watching. It was so intense and yeah,
mm.
just best series so far for sure.
Things to note: Pavelski is skating with the Stars, but he looks like he will remain out for Game Five for Dallas' side. Gustafsson in his first NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, been absolutely amazing for the Wild. His 1.71 goals against on average, 0.941 save percentage. Uh, I guess it's heads up to the coach for playing him over Fleury. Could have been easy to go with Fleury, but yeah, they've gone with Gustafsson. And Stars, they score twice on the power play, man advantage, and that was through Seguin. That is another key thing is that we'll note probably throughout this whole entire thing is just special teams and special teams really making a difference this playoffs because it seems 5-on-5 is pretty even. And yeah, those are just the other things I wanted to note there.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Alrighty,
let's move on to the Knights.
do you want to kick it off with the Knights then?
Yeah, I mean this series is just for you Jets fans out there. Started off in a blaze of glory with an absolute massive win. Made the Golden Knights look like the Golden, just no, what should we call them? Not the they're nothing but golden in that first game. And then everything fell apart. They win 5-1 in the first game. They get outplayed in the second 5-2. Um, and I think it just came down to like the Mark Stone factor. Everyone said, Stone's back. He's gonna be a big impact, and then he scores the two goals that get them the win in game two. Um, the game three, just that losing in second overtime really turned it, and then ultimately they lost their best defenseman in Morrissey, and it just seems no Morrissey, no Jets because
Mm.
they just got outplayed
The,
and
the other thing is they
disappointing.
lost Shifley in Game Four, who was their best goal scorer throughout the regular season. So it looks like he's out for the remaining of the series. So they've lost basically
Yeah,
two of their best key players besides Hellebuck.
exactly. So, no Morrissey on the blue line, no Shifley on the offense. It's gonna be tough going for the Jet. And the way it's looking, I'm struggling to see your prediction of 4-1 not coming true
Mm.
because
Losing two key players.
unfortunately, I just don't know how the Jets. get by without those two. I just think it's too big of a they're two big pieces that I don't think that they can just, you know, call
Yeah.
up scrubs
I don't think
and
they've got the
replace them.
depth throughout the franchise to even fill the void a little bit. And I
Yeah,
think that's my big
exactly.
problem. Some teams you can go, oh, look, they've missed a key player, but you got this little depth player coming up. But I don't feel like the Jets can say that there. So it is looking like a Knights 4-1, which is a bit heartbreaking for the Jets. It's not how you want the season to end on injuries, but it's played
No,
out the way it
exactly.
is. Yeah.
Exactly, especially when they started off so well in game one. I think that's the most disappointing thing there is they started off in an absolute blaze of glory. And if that game three, if they could have won that in second overtime, they go 2-1 up in the series. Yeah, they lose Morrissey, but they're still in with a chance. But yeah, ultimately they lose Morrissey, they lose the game, and then they lose game four today. So not good.
No, no,
Honestly, I think yeah.
no, it's not
It's
good.
good
It's not
night, Jets.
looking like good night Jets. Moving on to the Oilers, the Kings series once again. So 3 out of 4 tied 2-all. This is a very close series. I had Oilers going in 7, and you had the Kings winning in 7. It looks like it could be the play. It looks like special teams is the thing that's going to get this over the line for either team, whoever can show up or stay out of the box. But it's hard with the refereeing being what it is. But
Uh-huh.
you got to look at the penalty kill for LA is like 45%. Their power play is basically at 30 though, so that's what that is. Edmonton's penalty kill is at 70%, and their power play is at 54. So it's just a matter of special teams, and if LA can, I know it's hard with McDavid and whatnot, but if they could shut up and shut them down on the power play, it could go a very long way because it just seems to be power play goal fiesta in this series. I will also note that their Kopitar and oh god, I forget his name again. The other guy, they're playing a really good shutdown role on 5 against the McDavid Draisaitl lineups, and I think that's playing a long way into Kings really competing, even with that really poor penalty kill.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been 11 power play goals. Um, it's insane because there's been a lot of goals scored during this series. What are we looking at? 11, 20, 27 goals, 11 power play goals. We said it was going to be a highly offensive series. The crazy part about it is how tight it has been. Three overtime games so far. And then the only one not to go to overtime was, it was what? It was a um, 2-all game up until the third period. They made it 3-2, and then Evander Kane scores an empty net with 20 seconds to go in the game. So even that was tight right until the end. Like it was game on. There hasn't been a single game that you can just go, oh, it's game over, back to bags, blah blah blah. It's been game on the entire series. Even like in game four, Oilers were 3-0 down. They bring it back to 3-all. Kings get a 4-3 lead at the end. Start of the third, and then the Oilers level it with not too long to go, and then win it in overtime. The one thing I will say about this series that's worried me about the Oilers, which worried me all year, their defense is disgusting. I just I finished watching. I think I finished watching the Devils game the other. Uh,
Game 3 or
was it game three or?
hmm,
Nah, it wouldn't have been. Sorry, they're not on. Who was I watching? I was watching someone. I might have been the Wild Stars game. I was watching the Wild Stars, or maybe it was the Panthers Bruin. I switched off. Yeah, I think I switched off and then um turned on the Oilers game yesterday to yeah, I reckon it was the Wild Stars game, maybe. There
yeah,
was
it
one of
doesn't
them, but
matter.
anyway, I switched off. Nah, I switched on to watch the third period of the Oilers, and I legitimately thought that the Oilers were on the Kings were on a 5-on-3 power play. The way the Kings just waltzed into their offensive zone, they were just walking through them. I couldn't believe that the Kings did not win that game 10-3, 10-4, because if it wasn't for, I think Skinner was in there, they were stuffed. Like they were honestly stuffed. Like that was the most disgusting defense I've ever seen. And how they got the win is beyond me. And it's great that it's so tight, and it's it's just watching that OT, and then eventually the Oilers scored it was it was great. It's so suspenseful, but my God, I just a better team offensively is gonna absolutely destroy the Oilers if that's how they defend, because it was just you imagine a Nathan McKinnon waltzing through that defense. He's gonna walk through and he's gonna score three every night. Like that was just the most. If you have a chance, go back and watch Game 4, Oilers Kings third period, and just watch the disgustingness of the defensive effort from the Oilers. It was just the worst defensive effort I've probably ever seen, and it was constant. Kings just constantly walking in on goal. Yeah, it was insane.
Mm.
That's all I'll say on that. Yeah, it was the worst defensive effort I've ever seen.
Alrighty, moving on to Boston, Florida. No surprise, Boston's really leading this one, 3-1. Florida has taken it to them though. It's not been an overly dominant series that people would expect from how Boston played in the offseason, but Florida is a good team. But it is looking like Florida do bail out here. Um, it is a tough series. It's probably the toughest task you could ask for coming up in the first round. So you make or break it pretty early. And look, I'm pretty set on they're going to keep going through Boston here. I feel like it's going to be a 4-1. Our predictions were 4-1 for the Bruins, and it looks like it is going that way. They have basically the second best penalty kill besides Carolina's at the moment at 91%. Carolina's only at 92. So, and their power play is at 28.6, so basically 29%. So they're getting it done on special teams, getting it done on 5-on-5, averaging 4 goals a game, only conceding less than three. So obviously you're going to get it done there, aren't you?
Oh, exactly. And I think no one's surprised by this. I don't think anyway. The big surprise for me is Panthers beat Bruins 6-3. Um, with Bergeron out, right? Like Bergeron's out of the team. It looks like no Bergeron, no Boston perhaps. And then Boston just go on the road. They head to Florida and they go bang bang, and it's 3-1. Like when the Panthers leveled that series with that big 6-3 win in game two, I thought, wow, shit, this could actually be a big series. I know we predicted 4-1 Bruins, but when they won that second game, it was like, this is for real now. They go home for two games and they've got a series like level. Um, and no Patrice Bergeron. Florida fans would have been frothing at the mouth, going, "Great, one
I
of the
think they're
best
also out
freaking."
without Krejci as well.
So they had. Don't get me wrong, they're a complete team, but Bergeron and Krejci, they're two big players, so two big losses. But yeah, Bruins just doing what they've done all year and getting the job done. And yeah, I think we're going to be right on the money here. And I think 4-1 Bruins is you'll
Yeah.
see in 2 days' time.
Yeah, well, it looks like Bergeron is returning for Game 5, so the team even gets even stronger. I don't think Krejci is returning. Is
Mm.
going to play Game 5, so they will miss that. That is the little weakness, I guess you could say, that Florida can exploit. Um, the other thing though for Boston is Bertuzzi, the pickup they got from Detroit. He's shown his playoff ready. Honestly, the guy's been absolutely amazing. you could argue it's easy when you have the line mates you do at Boston, but he's just taking his game to another level and finally getting the playoff hockey that the guy probably deserves, honestly. And so yeah, their pickups and then offs in the trade deadline have just really solidified this strength of this team that you can lose a Bergeron and Korechki and still have players that step up. But alrighty,
Yeah, like that's all you can say about Boston.
mm, complete team. Allmark's been great and making a couple of great highlight saves as well. Moving on
Exactly.
to Toronto and Tampa. This is probably the controversial series, I guess you could say, with how Game 3 ended. And look, we both had Leafs winning 4-2. It looked a little bit dicey initially with how Tampa was pushing Toronto, but they're leading the series.
7-3 in the first.
Yeah, they're leading the series now 3-1. Um, it looks like honestly, it looks like Toronto could take this either 4-1 or 4-2. We obviously had the prediction 4-2. It's strong. Obviously, the fight in Game 3 with the hit, but it was good to see the Braden Point returns and ended up playing some more shifts that game, and it wasn't a serious injury. Obviously, Game 4, people playing with some some black eyes, which was it's funny to look at. But
Mhm.
yeah, look, they're getting it done, Toronto, on basically all fronts. Matthews has scored here to get the comeback on Game 4. You got Riley on the defense. Their pickup in Riley, the other Riley. That
O'Reilly.
yep.
Yep.
He's really stepped up, and that's what you need. He's obviously played playoffs and won, and that's the kind of the caliber they needed, and he stepped up as well. Look,
Big body as well.
they're very big body. They're like a playoff hockey player, really. And
Exactly.
look on regards to the Tampa side, like they're playing really good, strong hockey, but I don't know what it is that they're lacking. They're lapsing at some points, and that
Mhm.
seems to be what's killing them. And that's what they were doing at before the season ended as well on that little loss streak, basically.
Yeah, and exactly that happened today. Like they go 2-1 down in the series. They started with a bang in game one, winning 7-3 pretty easy, but then they get absolutely smacked in game two. The controversy of game three, all that, the disallowed goal and the fight and all the rest of that sort of stuff, yeah, it is what it is. But, they go down 2-1 in the series and they come out and they're 4-1 up with 11 minutes to go in the hockey game. 4-1. I've seen a lot of people come out and say they did a reverse Toronto. Like, eh, Toronto's supposed to be the team that are 4-1 up and cough up a lead in the playoffs and lose in game seven. Like it was great to see from a Leafs perspective. I think, we've both said that this is the year that they get out of the first round. We obviously predicted 4-2. Um, but they lie down and die in that game and it goes to all series level. Who knows what's going to happen at that point? But they're 3-1 up in the series now. I say that it's still no guarantee. It is the Leafs. We've watched them blow a 3-1 lead before. Um, but yeah, I don't know. There's just something different about them this year. I think some of the pieces that they've acquired are just stepping up at the right time in the playoffs, and I think they're going to be the difference. I think they're going to be what separates the Leafs from going to game seven and losing in all the previous playoff series to actually winning. I don't think this will go to 7 games. I think this will either be over in a few days' time or they'll take it 4-2. I think they could lose the next game, but they'll win game six
Mm,
at worst. I don't think this goes to game seven. I think they've got the composure this season. Um, and yeah, we're gonna finally see them out of the first round.
yeah. Well, this is the highest scoring series out the lot. 35 goals scored. I think one of the next highest is like 27, 28. So it's very high scoring. Goals for per game. Toronto number one, 4.75. Tampa number two, at number four
Mm,
in regards to the playoff teams. And look, it comes down to how good their power players are playing. 35% for Toronto, 29% for Tampa, and obviously vice versa. The penalty kill, 70% for Toronto, 64 for Tampa. So honestly, I feel like whoever can up their power penalty kill or stay out the box, granted it's hard in this league, could edge at least an extra game there. So if Toronto can shore that up, then I feel like they definitely win the series. But Tampa's got to do a lot of clawing back and stem that conceding that many goals.
yeah, for sure. And we know Toronto have the firepower. Tampa have the firepower too, which is why I'm not surprised it's such a high scoring
Mm,
series. However, yeah, like, look, I will say this. I said it probably late towards the end of the season. The scary thing to me about the Leafs, and I do know they've got to go play the Bruins once they get through the first round, which is terrifying. But once the monkeys offered the Leafs back, who knows how far they could go? Like, once they've got a series win under their, you know, eh, on their resume, it's like boom, yeah, we finally got out of the first round. I can see them going, all the way to the Stanley Cup. I don't want, Toronto fans don't go planning the parade yet, but yeah, it's a scary thought, Toronto out of the first round because yeah, I don't know. I know Boston's good and that series is going to be massive and what a slap in the face for Toronto. You finally get out of the first round just to face Boston. Um, but yeah, it'd be very hard to see them not competing hard against Boston at least, and potentially going all the way. So it's going to be interesting.
Alrighty, moving on to Carolina versus the Islanders. Interesting series. It's been pretty competitive. Carolina obviously leading 3-1. Our predictions were the Canes in 6, 4-2.
Mm,
It's been a hard fought game. I would say that the Islanders, where they're lacking, it's going to be the story for them, and it has been for Florida as well against Boston. It's that power play, like 8%. You can't get it done. That's just not good
mhm.
enough. You're not scoring, and that means that Carolina's penalty kill is at 92% basically. So you're not getting it done there. Your penalty kill is only 73%. Carolina's power play 26%. Like they're just not getting anything done on their special teams, and I feel like that's what this first round has really proven is that special teams are super critical and edging that extra goal that you might need, whether it's in OT or whether it's to get it to OT that we've seen. And that's what I fear for the Islanders is that they just don't have that power play that's getting them across the line, and that's why I do fear that they might bail out in the next game, or they
Yeah,
do win the next game, but I feel like that'd be it.
it's disappointing, isn't it? Because like you look at the first game, 2-1, that was tight. That whole game was just tight. It was intense. Um, then you go to game two and they lose 4-3 in overtime. And that was intense. And it's just like I think that what they were 3-2 up and they conceded a goal, not that late, but late-ish in the third. And you're thinking, oh, this is a really tight game. Game three was 1-1 up until 16 minutes to go in the third. And the Islanders, and like I was sitting there thinking, God, if the Islanders lose another tight game, this is just cruel because they've been in every single game. They've been so close. And then they smashed Carolina. They went bang, 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 scored 4 goals, quickest 4 goals in their franchise history in the playoffs. Um, it was incredible, right? And finally, they get a win under their belt, and then they just come out in game four, and honestly, it was just really disappointing. As alluded to, they're not getting it done on the power play, but their penalty kills, you know, are letting goals in as well. So yeah, I can see it ending as 4-1, and I think that'd be really disappointing considering how the first three games went. Um, I think if this went for seven games, it would be probably one of the best series going around in terms of how tight and close and constantly um you know both teams are in the game right until the death, other than the last game. But yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree with you. I could see it being good night all over tomorrow for the Islanders. I just don't, I just
It's
don't know if
unfortunate for
they have
such a
the
good
firepower.
competing defensive team, but you've got to score goals. That's basically it.
Yeah.
They're the equal with Florida at second worst goals for per game, and that pretty much sums it up. You need to score a little bit more. And I know it's against the Carolina Hurricanes, but they do have weaknesses, and you've got to exploit it. And they just haven't done it yet. They did do it one
Yeah.
game, going 5-1, but that was it.
Yeah. Well,
Alrighty.
exactly. And they scored all four of those, the four of their five goals within like 3 minutes.
Mm.
So, or
So
2 minutes or
whatever
whatever
you
it
did in
was.
those 3 minutes, do it again
Yeah.
for a 60.
Exactly. Turn it on. But yeah. All right. Moving on to the last series.
Yeah, last series, Devils versus Rangers, tied 2-2. Devils tied it today. Our predictions, Devils 4-3, and you had them in 4-2. Look, it's been an interesting flip flop. Obviously, these two teams have been good, if not better, on the road, and they've proven it, winning both games on the other team's ice. I do want to mention just before I go into anything else that the Rangers ice is probably the worst I've ever seen it. You
Oh,
just what
so bad.
it's actually
So
atrocious.
bad.
I understand Madison Square Garden gets used pretty much every day. There's always an event, but it's the playoffs. I don't feel like there should be an excuse for this. That how bad it is
Play
with
it.
players slipping left and right. The
Oh, they were
the puck,
falling over nothing. It
yeah.
was insane.
The
Like,
And I feel like that has hampered Devils a bit more in a sense, is that they're not used to that choppy ice, whereas the Rangers have been accustomed to that all season because of that's pretty
mm,
much how the MSG is. But I feel like it's not up to standard, puck bouncing too much. But I just wanted to note that. Moving on from that, it is the lowest scoring series. Only 19 goals scored. You could have, you know, proved us wrong in regards to the first two games when it was like 12 goals scored or something like that. But yeah, now it's Devils winning. They're shutting down the Rangers offense, and what's really come to that is the penalty kill. I think the Rangers were like four power play goals out of 7.
4 from 7. Yeah.
Now they're going from like 0 from 11 to 12 or something like that, since the Devils have started winning. So that is the big difference. Like I said, special teams play a big difference. One other thing to note: New Jersey has the lowest goals for in the entire playoffs, only scoring 7 goals, conceding 12. Um, but they're tied at 2-2 with the least scoring. I would say that is probably a big problem for them. Not getting enough t- players firing. I think 3 out of those 7 are from Hughes. They get an empty netter today with Andre Palat. We know that Palat's a playoff king, so maybe that gets him firing as well. But we'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely a big contrast from the first two games. Rangers just dominated. The next two games, Rangers, like their top players just shut down, had no shots on goals. One of the players, I think it was Trocek or something like that, didn't have a shot and goal all game. Then his first shot goes in game
Yeah.
4. So that's been a big thing, is the Devils' defensive side of things.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge changeover. And I know they
I,
obviously went from Vanacek to
yeah, I
Schmee.
didn't even mention the biggest change there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I, the first two games, it wasn't really on Vanacek either. Like the Devils were Devils were just poor defensively. You could see that they were shaky. They were trying to make passes that they don't usually make, or they were making mistakes that you don't usually see them make. They every time they um, every time they touched the puck, it was bobbling. Like you don't see that with the Devils that often. They're quite silky with their puck movement. But the first two games, any pass, like even simple passes, seem to just have a little bit of a bobble on the stick every time, and it gave the Rangers a chance to jump on it. Whereas in these last two games, they've just been clean in their zone. Their entries into the offensive zone have been really good. Their exits out of their D zone has been fantastic. Yeah, they really come to play in the last two games. They really needed to because honestly, the way they were heading towards a sweep. And this isn't a series that you want to see a sweep in. The Devils could win this series, Rangers could win this series. It's wide open. Even though the Rangers have looked ordinary in the last couple of games and the Devils have played much, much better and outplayed them, it's definitely not good night Rangers. Rangers can turn this around. They're a phenomenal side. So I'm actually really glad that the Devils have been able to turn it on, get the last couple wins because we finally got a Devils v Rangers series that we've all come to know and love over the last 20 odd years that they've gone up against each other in the playoffs. It might even be 30 years now. Bloody hell, that's showing some age. Um, but yeah, so yeah, 2-2. It's shaping up to be an absolute defensive blockbuster in terms of um, teams are struggling to score. You said it. Devils have only scored 7 goals in this series, but they only conceded 1 goal in both of the last two games. I know they were a bit leaky in the first two, but they've really tightened that up. The Rangers, with Shesterkin in net, are going to be really hard to get past. So, I don't think the Devils. You're probably not going to see the Devils score much more than 3 or 4 goals at most. You're not going to see a blowout 5, 6, 7. I could be wrong. Who knows? But I dare say, this the rest of the series, the Devils are probably only going to score 2, 3, 4 goals at max per game. Because Shesterkin's he's locked in. Even these last two games that they've lost, Shesterkin has been locked in. And yeah, I think it's going to be an absolute defensive. I think we'll see maybe another couple of overtime games. I think the winning margin is probably only going to be 1 to 2 goals at most, and that 2 goal game is probably going to be because of an empty netter. Um, yeah, it's going to be on par with the Stars and Wild series for probably the best series of the playoffs, I reckon. It
Mm.
wasn't to start with, but it's pulled itself back. That's for sure.
Alrighty. I guess we can insert a little X next to your Jets there. That prediction cannot come true. Um, four
It's the only
two.
one though. It's the only one
Jets could still win, but it would be a 4-3. So yeah.
look, I'm not even hopeful on that now. As soon as Morrissey went down and they lost that game 3, I was like, oh no.
Alrighty.
Uh,
With that said, leave a comment below on what do you think about our predictions still going in the series. What do you think of the series in themselves? Which one is the best series? Which one have you been following? How your team is going, or who you are supporting? Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and until next time, I guess we'll see you around.
okay, guys, enjoy the playoffs.